Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. All right, so I'm in Tokyo. I'm in Shibuya, and I'm meeting a viewer here to search for a GMT Master 2 16710. That's what he wants to buy. And he wants one on a Jubilee bracelet, a Coke, and ideally he wants one from 1989 because that year has particular significance for him. Now, when it comes to the Jubilee bracelet, I found only 3 on Rakuten. That's usually how I scout out pieces. So there appears to be, at least on Rakuten, only 3 in the entire country, and 2 of them aren't in Tokyo, all right? But there is one, and it just happens to be a 1989 L serial, which is what he's after. And it's a Coke, it's perfect. The only problem is a little too expensive. It's north of 2 million yen, which for me, that's an incredible amount. But if you're paying with dollars because of the weak exchange rate, then it comes out to 14,000 USD, which is not that bad. Well, you can get them for a lot cheaper in the States, but here's the thing. It comes with an oyster bracelet too, and that's a value of 1,500 USD. So it's really not that expensive considering it checks off all of his boxes. So I might bring that piece up to him again, but otherwise he's going to have to make some concessions and probably go with something on an oyster bracelet. Why are they all on oyster bracelets? Well, I think it's probably because the Jubilee bracelet is so thin, and you know, I've got 2 of them. I've got one for my A serial, one for my P serial, and I bought them new. And you know, I paid the 1,500 USD for them, and let me tell you, it doesn't feel like a 1,500 USD bracelet. It's so light. It's comfortable, but it just feels, well, it feels like it's not going to even last 10 years. And that could be why you don't see them on Jubilee bracelets, because just the oysters are stronger and last longer, and that makes sense. There are less moving parts and less parts to wear against one another. And so I think Jubilee bracelets have a shorter lifespan, but we'll see what we find, and hopefully he'll leave Japan with a 16710 GMT Master 2 on his wrist, and one that checks off as many boxes as possible. This is what I wear when I hit the shops because I like to ask for a discount, and you're very unlikely to get one here in Japan, but I feel like if you're wearing a Rolex watch, it shows that you've at least paid Rolex money in the past, so I think they're probably unlikely to give you a discount. If you have this on your wrist, they might think you're stretching for that luxury purchase and give you that discount you're asking for. The viewer has arrived. T. Woo! This is T. All right, so how's Tokyo?
Fantastic, just eating the whole time.
Good food here, for sure. All right, so he's looking for a 16710, and you want a Jubilee bracelet. Now, here's the thing. I looked, and there are about 3 Jubilee bracelets in all of Japan, and there's only one in Tokyo, and you know about it. It's exactly. That more expensive one. What are you looking to spend? What's the limit of your budget today?
Yeah, I think looking at home, the cost was around 12 to 13K US, but plus tax. So
okay, all right.
For me, that would have been about 14,000 total at all. So I was hoping to spend a little bit less than that with the exchange rate.
Interesting. All right, so that Jubilee bracelet, L serial, right? It does come with an oyster bracelet. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, those cost about 1,500. Well, hold on. The Jubilee costs about 1,500. I'm not sure what an oyster costs, but probably comparable. So that's something to consider, because you're basically getting a free bracelet. Not really free, you're paying for it, right? Otherwise, you're going to have to get the oyster braceleted version and then add a Jubilee later.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of work.
True.
I would rather just go through one transaction and just be done, rather than continuing to search in pieces.
All right. Now, that price that I showed you, you're going to save 10% on that.
Okay.
All right. Do you have your passport?
I do.
All right. So, look, we'll make our way there. You can check it out, and we might come across something between then and now.
Okay.
It might be better. All right. The first piece we checked out, this is a U serial from 1998. It's a tritium dialed watch. Now, during the U serials, they transitioned from the tritium to the Luminova. So some of those U serials have the Swiss only dial. I think that would be preferable unless you're going for the tritium. It's got a holes case, which T wants. Easier to change out straps, and more importantly, easier to make sure those spring bars are properly seated. You don't want your bracelet falling off. It's got a hollow and link bracelet and the older clasp instead of the flip lock clasp. Although this watch has been polished, the cornet on the clasp looks good. We'll see about the case condition in a minute. This was 1,800,000 yen. It came with everything, box, papers, hang tag. And look at that beautiful fat font serifed insert. That's the best thing about it. What's not the best thing is the polishing on the case. Now, when you first look at it, it looks beautiful, but you realize how much they've taken off the shoulders, and you can see how close those bevels are to the holes in the case, and that's kind of unfortunate. Piece number 2, this was about 1,700,000 yen. I can't remember if it had box or papers, but T wasn't into the fading on the bezel. You can see it's a tritium piece. I want to say it might be an S serial from 93, 94. The shop staff is pointing out some nicks. There were 3 of them around the edge of the crystal. You can see there's an issue with the minute hand. The tritium is cracked and little pieces of tritium have fallen out. And that's why I don't really like tritium. If you take this to RSC, they'll probably insist on changing out that minute hand, and then you're going to have a white minute hand, a Luminova minute hand. Being an early 90s piece, it's got that older clasp, and oh, I see there it's an X serial. Okay, so it's older than I thought, 1991. And of course, it's got a hollow and link bracelet and a holes case. You got to wonder about the fading on the bezel insert and whether that was done artificially. Now, I have a feeling not, because from what I understand in the past, the red in particular had a tendency to fade, but it's uneven, and that's a bit unfortunate. Of course, this is a polished piece, and you can see that the polishing on the shoulders is a little much. It's getting pretty close to the holes on the holes case. One of the cheapest pieces that we came across, this was 1,400,000 yen. No box, no papers, tritium holes case, hollow and link bracelet. I think it had that older clasp, but unfortunately it's got the wrong insert. Now, because it's so cheap, he could actually buy this and take to RSC and have the insert changed out and save some money, but that would give him a service insert. This piece too has been polished, but I prefer the polishing job on this piece. Now, it's a bit soft, it's a bit rounded, not as sharp as those earlier pieces, but they didn't take as much metal off. Compare it to the one on the right, that earlier U serial, and see how close the shoulders are to the holes, or that X serial, how close the bevels on the shoulders are to the holes. The one on the left is better because you could take that to RSC and they could put a sharpness on it, but not as much metal is going to be taken off. Much more potential. 2 more candidates, although none of them are Cokes, but I wanted to show T, the more improved flip-lock clasp. The one on the left is a D serial, the middle one an A serial, and the one on the right, T wasn't interested in because it's a 16700. This is the D serial from 2005, 2006, and it's got a stick dial. Being a later piece, this will have the no holes case, the solid and link bracelet, the flip-lock clasp, and Luminova. Now take a look at that bezel insert. T wants a Coke. This is an all black, but the advantage of this is he could take it to RSC, have it changed out, and the service insert that he would get, that Coke insert, would be period correct for a D serial. Another interesting thing about these later 16710s is the dial. And look at the minute marks, specifically the minute marks at 5, 10, 15, 20. They are non-serifed, unlike every other 16710 we've seen up until now, which have serifed minute marks at the 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. Different watch here. This is the A serial from 1999. Box papers, it had nearly everything except for the green hang tag, which is kind of irreplaceable, as we'll talk about. But look at the bezel insert, beautiful, fat font, serifs, looks really minty. This is what I think is the sweet spot. Holes case, solid and link bracelet. It's got the Luminova Swiss-made dial. I'm not sure if it's been polished or if it's unpolished, but it looks really good in that regard. And it's got that more vintage looking dial with those serifs at the 510, etc. This would have been what I would have picked up if I had been T. Now later on, T spotted this, and it was the cheapest Coke we had come across, but no box, no papers, and T passed on it. All right, T. Okay, so we checked out watches, and now before you came, you found a watch in New York, a 16710. It was perfect. It's got a Jubilee bracelet, Coke bezel insert, full set, and I think it was a tritium piece.
Correct.
Right. And what did you think about some of the pieces that we saw?
So then your piece was interesting. Found it on Chrono 24, but mainly because of the exchange rate. I thought we might get lucky here.
Yeah, it comes out to about 12,000 USD. And if he just wanted a GMT on his wrist, he could get a cheaper one here. Some of the ones that we saw, the A serial comes out to 9,500. If he just wanted to get into a GMT Master 2, this would be the cheapest option, buying something here. But you want that configuration.
That configuration would just make life easier.
Yeah.
Where with one purchase, it has a Jubilee, the Coke bezel, and I'll be done. Versus buying it and then having to look for a bezel, look for the bracelet separately.
Right.
It just seems like a lot of work.
You don't think you're ever going to really do anything but the Jubilee bracelet?
Unlikely. It was sitting in the box, most likely.
Yeah. But again, it's 2,000 yen or $2,000 more than that A serial we saw. So, of course, the advantage is once you buy that, you get everything you want, and you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to get a Jubilee bracelet after the fact, and yeah. So I think that's probably what you're going to do.
Probably.
All right. Well, send me a wrist shot when you do.
Absolutely.
All right. Was this fun?
Absolutely.
Did you learn anything about watches?
Quite a bit. It's just overwhelming, though, with the number of watches here, that it's really hard to step into a place in California and see so many Rolexes in one place that you could actually buy.
Whenever I come back from Nakano, right behind us, I'm sick of watches. I'm like, man, why am I in this hobby? It's like I just saw too many watches. And that's how I always feel. But it was great, man. And
awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. All right. So in the end, T left Japan without a GMT on his wrist, but with the intention of buying that watch on the right, which he had his eye on. 12,000 USD, box, papers, full set, and the most important thing, it was the configuration he was after with the Jubilee bracelet and the Coke insert. Now, the watch on the left, the A serial, had some good points, and let's go through a few of them. First of all, it was $2,000 cheaper, so he could use that 2,000 USD to buy a Jubilee bracelet from RSC. It would be new, unused, minty, and he could also use some of that money to buy a bezel insert, a Coke bezel insert through RSC. Now, the bad point about that, it would be a service insert. If you wanted to, he could always try to get one on eBay, but getting one minty might be a little bit difficult. But it would give him both bracelets and an extra insert, and the money would be the same. Now, the watch on the right has an RSC service card, but so did that A serial on the left, and it was dated just 2 months prior, so you know it's been checked out by RSC and is still within warranty. And we don't know how old that service card is with the one on the right. But unfortunately, the A serial on the left is missing the green hang tag, which is irreplaceable, unfortunately. So both great pieces. Which one would you go for?